Back in May of last year, that's 2022, in episode 93, we had Brittany Dodson from the Be Magical podcast as a guest, talking about a variety of otherworldly topics. At the time, Brittany drew our attention to the Rh negative blood type and the associations and speculations regarding alien origins of this unusual blood group. So join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we finally get around to looking into this fascinating topic. And if you want to help support us in making future episodes of Aliens Explored, all you have to do is go over to patreon.com/Aliens Explored, and for the paltry sum of £2 a month, you can help us make future episodes, and of course you'll get exclusive access to our Discord server as well. Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective, whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Hello listeners, and welcome back to Aliens Explored, your weekly look at all things mysterious, paranormal, extraterrestrial, up in the skies, down in the oceans, and here on Earth, and in government departments that are secluded from sight and covered by top secret rules and heavily guarded. And I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. How's it going, Neil?
It's going very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You're gearing up for your holiday, Neil.
I am. Yeah, I'm really gearing up for it now. I mean, I expect our listeners are sick of hearing this is the third episode in which you mentioned my imminent holiday, but this, and then they won't even notice up in a way because the podcast will just keep flowing out regularly. So,
well, that's why we like to record episodes in advance for that very reason. Yeah, so this week, really interesting subject. Now, way back, over a year ago now, in episode 93, we had Brittany Dodson from the Be Magical podcast.
We did indeed.
Talking about the connections between magic and ufology. Really interesting, and lovely person, Brittany. Now, Brittany switched us on to a couple of different subjects, but one of them was talking about Rh negative blood and the potential extraterrestrial connection with it. I'm going to make a confession here.
Okay.
At the time, I thought, I'm not buying into this. I mean, okay, we'll explore it, we'll talk about it, but I wasn't really buying into it as a concept.
Having looked into it a bit, I'm thinking, it is quite strange. I mean, what I know about blood, some of which I knew, some of which I've been reminded, there are basically, I think it's 4 types, isn't it? There's O, there's A, there's B, and there's AB. Yeah. And those are further divided into what's called rhesus positive and rhesus negative. And rhesus comes from, all this was discovered by experimenting on the rhesus macaque monkeys that are found in the native to to Southern Asia. Perhaps some of our listeners don't like human beings being associated with monkeys for religious reasons, but we'll skim over that a little bit. So anyway,
it was experimentation for transfusion purposes.
Yes,
that they did this, and yeah, they found that of the monkeys. So some monkeys, you could give their blood to any other monkey and they'd be absolutely fine, and different monkeys, you give their blood to another and it can be quite detrimental, even leading to death. So that led to some really interesting findings, as you rightly say, because so a positive person can receive negative blood, that's fine, but a negative person cannot receive positive blood. It could kill them.
And even if a negative person is made pregnant by a positive person, it would kill the baby, I understand, and possibly the host, possibly the mother as well.
If the mother is rhesus negative, yes, then basically if she's made pregnant by a rhesus positive man, then the baby could end up rhesus positive, and the mother, her immune system will basically treat it like an infection,
a parasite.
It's you have to be really careful. There are some cultures where you have to take a blood test before you get pregnant or before you get married.
That was the reason in America. I mean,
yes.
You see it in old films where the romantic couple, they knock up the judge, they go to his house in the middle of the night and knock him up and say, we can you marry us, we've got our blood test. And I always wonder, what is this about a blood test? I've never, because I don't think it was ever a thing here in Britain. Maybe it was, because if one of you is
I'm sorry, I've got to interject, I'm laughing away here because knocking up the judge has a very different connotation when we're talking about people getting pregnant.
Getting knocked up, okay. You don't knock up the judge in that way. You knock on his door in the middle of the night, and he answers the door in his comedy nightgown and nightcap, holding a wee willy winky candle. They, what do you want? We want you to marry us, judge. And you got a blood test first. But I don't remember that. I've never heard anything about it over this side of the pond. It was a thing in America because, as you say, if a rhesus positive person impregnates a rhesus negative person, that person could die and certainly the baby won't survive. The other way round, if a rhesus negative person impregnates a rhesus positive person, then that will survive and could possibly lead to a baby with rhesus negative blood. Presumably that's how that bloodline has been preserved and even promulgated. Now, most people are rhesus positive. I think it's something like 15% of the population is rhesus negative. Rhesus negative, and they largely. There's a huge concentration of these beings, of these accursed creatures, living in the Basque region of the Pyrenees. The Pyrenees are basically northern Spain, southern France.
Yes, what's particularly interesting about the Basque people is they have essentially an isolated language. We're only talking a very, very small area, relatively speaking. And normally, being that close to other countries, you'd have influences from either the French or the Spanish or a combination of both. But no, they have a completely isolated written and spoken language that doesn't bear any resemblance to French or Spanish.
But isn't that largely, French, Spanish, Italian, they're Latin languages. They would have been derived from Latin, from Roman conquests. But there are pockets of people, like, for instance, Bretons, the Welsh, the Irish, their languages are very, very different from those of their neighbours. Go to Scandinavia and Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Lithuanian, Latvian, they're all fairly readily understandable. Then suddenly you've got Estonian and Finnish that are completely, really difficult, notoriously difficult languages to learn. related to Hungarian as well. So it's probably more to do with history, I would think, and rule and conquests and and how tribes have moved and settled and brought their languages with them.
Well, when it's a small area like that, and particularly a landlocked one, generally speaking, you're going to have cultural influences from those countries surrounding you. So yeah, I mean, like you say, we spoke Celtic in this country, and then the Romans came over, and what did they ever do for us? But obviously they gave us our current language, our English language. But because Wales is sort of over to one side of the country, it's more coastal. Although the English is predominantly spoken in Wales, they still speak Welsh to this day because they were able to. But even then, a lot of Welsh words, a lot of modern Welsh words, are English words. Or very, very similar. Just remember, some of them sound like quite funny. Like microwave is pingy something, or
is it the ping ping or something?
Something of that nature. I've completely forgotten what it is now. I might have to Google that. But they take sort of modern words and. There's definitely an influence that is seen, but with the Basques you get none of that whatsoever, and they must have been trading with the French and Spanish.
I think with most languages, whenever something new is invented, wherever it comes from, who invented it, everyone calls it that. For instance, a word like television or telephone would be recognisable if you heard a Russian say it, if you heard an Arab say it, if you heard someone from China say it. The only exception I can think of is in Germany, where Hitler had a purge of. He wanted to eradicate foreign words and keep the German language pure. So the Germans had to come up with words to describe these things in German. So a telephone is das Fernsprachapparat. A television is das Fernsehen. You can see far, or the far speaking device. They don't, but I think even now they use things like television, telephone. But that there are really cultural and political reasons for not having those words, and I think with the Basques as well. I mean, I suppose, like, there are so many peoples where there is a culture, there is a nationality effectively, but they don't have a country. Kurdistan is another one. It's an area that covers sort of Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, but it's not a country in itself. And they've fought a lot of wars over it. The Basques and the Catalans are the same. They are the Basque separatists. There were we occasionally becomes violent. But there could be. I think there are more cultural and political reasons why words don't get adopted into their language. They're being protective of it.
Okay, well, it might be for connected reasons, possibly, if they're keeping themselves more isolated. But the Basque people, 35% of their population compared to sort of 15% globally. 35% are Rh negative. Popty Ping, by the way, is the Welsh.
Popsy Ping.
Popty Ping.
Popty Ping. Okay, that's
Which
lovely.
is a lovely name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about the origins of Rh negative blood, we know that the human race originated in Africa. And Rh negative blood did not originate in Africa. It originated in Europe. It has since spread. It's quite a dominant, like you say, if you've got an Rh negative mother and a Rh positive father, then the baby's going to be in trouble, and possibly the mother as well. But the other way round, if it's an Rh negative father, then the child is likely to be Rh negative as well. So that's a strong way of spreading genetics. Now, there was also a really interesting study in 2020 as well that showed that people with Rh negative blood have a higher sex drive than people with Rh positive.
How scientific is that?
It was a proper scientific study that was done. I don't have the details to hand, but it was conducted over, I think it was about 6,000 people. So, a fair, of which 25% were Rh negative.
Okay.
So that's a substantial study.
I'm thinking of potential, the politics of different blood types. That it could, how I can see how it could be very much a feminist issue, especially if you live in a country like, especially if you live somewhere like China where they have a one-child policy, or even in Britain now where you're told any more than 2 kids you get child benefits for 2 children. Any more than that, you don't get anything. So I think most families that have 3 children or more are getting into a serious financial hardship, poverty these days anyway. But that's just that's the way we are in Britain these days.
Yeah.
But if you have that sort of one-child policy and you find out that you've had a daughter that is Rh negative, well, I suppose one of you would be Rh negative yourself, wouldn't it? It would mean the father was Rh negative.
Well, if you've got an potentially the mother as well. And of course, if 2 Rh negative people get together, that's fine.
But yeah, if you live in an area where most people are Rh positive and you have a daughter who's Rh negative, you've kind of got to veto relationships. You've got to tell them, well, no, you can't marry this person. Don't get into a relationship with these. We've selected some suitable blood types for you, but it's going to severely limit you, isn't it? If when people they get to a certain age, when they get to a relationship, they are thinking in terms of long-term marriage, children. Not necessarily marriage these days. Let's be modern about it, but potentially children. If you're suddenly find yourself Rh negative in a long-term relationship with an Rh positive man, you think, well, no, we can never have children. Well, if we try, I might die.
Well, it's not. So to be clear, it's not a case of if that happens, then mother and child are definitely going to pass away. There are medical things that can be done to mitigate, to reduce the risk. It's just that those have to be put in place, where they don't if it's the other way round. But it does mean that Rh negative is by far the genetically more dominant blood type, because you're more likely to end up with an Rh negative baby.
Yes,
that's the bottom line there. And there are also some more interesting things as well. So, for example, people with Rh negative blood are more likely to have lower blood pressure and a lower pulse, which is a sign of being healthy. They're also inclined to have an extra vertebrae as well.
I saw that, yeah.
But
which has prompted speculation that actually we have evolved from 2 different species.
Well, that's exactly where we're going with this discussion, isn't it? But one last interesting point. Whilst people with Rh negative blood can have any eye colour whatsoever, people who have green eyes are statistically more likely to have Rh negative blood.
Are they? Okay.
And green eyes are seen to be a strong sign of attractiveness in a lot of people. So again, it's just that little bit of an edge. So higher sexual drive, unlikely or less likely to have children who are Rh positive, and increased attractiveness and more health. better health.
Now,
That's why I'm saying it's a dominant trait.
Now, there has been speculation, of course, that extraterrestrials were involved in creating this subspecies of, no, not subhuman, but this slightly different species of humanity, which can only mix and mingle with the majority of humanity under very carefully controlled conditions.
Well, they can mix and mingle very easily. So the men certainly can. With men, it's very easy. You go forth and spread your seed. Okay. That's a euphemism, not an instruction.
No. But the main limitation is that a rhesus negative woman runs severe risks if she gets pregnant via a rhesus positive male.
Yes. Yeah. So you've got rhesus negative people are less likely to have rhesus positive children as a result.
Yeah.
But rhesus positive people can have rhesus negative children, no problem.
And yet generally they're still only 15% of the population. And is that stable? Is growing, shrinking? I don't...
So we've only known about this for less than 100 years. I think it was 1930s the initial test with the rhesus macaque monkeys was done. So we've not known about this long enough to really trace it that far. But I've got to believe that's increasing. You
just don't know, do you?
It's speculation.
It's speculation. I suppose it depends where they're located, if they are in somewhere where there's a growing population, then they will grow. And if that population is spreading throughout the world,
statistical likelihood suggests to me that it's going to be increasing. Out of curiosity, are you negative or positive?
Positive.
You're positive, as am I. Yeah. As am I. So let's look at where extraterrestrials may come into this. As I mentioned earlier, so we came from Africa. No rhesus positive people. Only rhesus positive people originated in Africa. Rhesus negative appeared in Europe at some point. So is this a mutation? Is it a genetic adjustment? Of course, a lot of people in ufology have speculated that we are being effectively crossbred with extraterrestrials. Something you keep coming up time and time and time again.
So there's a program, I think it's been on Netflix, isn't it, called Ancient Aliens, which speculates on this kind of thing, inspired by the works of the likes of Erich von Däniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods. Of course, Nick Pope is a regularly featured guest. Your favourite. The series has been largely... It isn't treated really as a serious source of information. It proselytizes. They specialise in a presentation style called a gish gallop, where they would just hurl lots and lots and lots of information at you, and you don't have time to refute it all before the next bit of information comes along. And of course that means that a lot of that information that out there remains unrefuted. The Smithsonian magazine called this presentation style the Gish Gallop, right, okay. Which they specialise in. So I think my problem with Ancient Aliens is I think there's this tendency to look at any kind of wonder of the ancient world and say, well, these people who live here couldn't possibly have built these pyramids or this thing or whatever. It must have been extraterrestrials who came down. It must be which, I mean, you could be accused of racism for that. Our civilization could build these things, although we don't know why we would want to. But these people are just too primitive. They couldn't have done this.
Well, we have mysteries in our country like Stonehenge.
We do, yeah. And we'll even say it about our own country. We say, well, why did they build it? What's it for? And were extraterrestrials involved?
These multi-ton stones 350 miles?
Yeah. Why would they do that? Did they do that, or was it someone else? Was it?
Yeah. Was it extraterrestrials?
Mm.
So okay. So I hear what you're saying there, but where do you think then this Rh negative blood type has come from?
I can only think it's some kind of mutation. I mean, species do mutate over time.
They do. One of the factors of Rh negative blood, though, is that it does not mutate.
But it is in effect, it is itself a mutation from way back somewhere.
Because if two Rh positive people have a baby, it's going to be Rh positive.
It's a mutation. Like I'm thinking of sickle cell anemia. Which is a particular shape of blood cell. It only really affects people of African origin, and apparently it's some kind of natural mutation as a defence against malaria. However, if you have, you need a mixture of normal shaped cells and sickle shaped cells to be healthy. But what's very common is that people develop they get an imbalance, and they've got too many sickle-shaped cells, and they developed a kind of anemia and become ill. I don't know quite how the illness manifests itself.
So the question I have to ask then is: does she sell sickle-shaped cells by the seashore?
That's a good one.
That's a good one for vocal warm-up, isn't it?
Sickle-shaped
sickle-shaped
C-shaped sickle cells on the seashore.
She cell, not seashore.
Yeah, does she sell C-shaped sickle cell on the seashore? Anyway, that needs work. That one needs work. So yeah, I just wonder if it's my first go-to would be it's some kind of human mutation.
Well, the example you gave though, that came from Africa, which we came from Africa. So if human beings came from Africa and only Rh positive came from Africa, then you're only going to get Rh positive. That's the bizarre thing. The Rh negative does not interact with Rh positive.
Unlike sickle-shaped cells, we can see what it does, what its use is, and why that mutation would have occurred. I can't think why rhesus negative blood types would have occurred.
There is
of all the different blood, because it's all blood types, isn't it? The O, A, B, and AB, they all have a positive and negative.
Yes.
So it's not as if it's just one type.
No, it's a different variation. It's you can be either. And interestingly, I don't know if you're aware of this, the Japanese look at different blood types as having different personality traits in the person. So if you're type O, you're the warrior type. You'll stand up for things. You'll fight the corner. You'll AB, I think, is humanitarian type. Anyway, that's a beside the point. But one of the interesting things that I haven't seen any actual evidence of this, but a lot of people I think draw circumstantial evidence towards this, is that being Rh negative gives you greater mental capacity. So a lot of people look at a lot of famous people have Rh negative blood. So like our very own David Beckham, for example.
Okay.
And a lot of world leaders and people of that nature. It suggests a greater capacity. I mean, greater mental capacity.
There are some types that are very, very rare, aren't there? Is it AB negative or something where if you need a blood transfusion, they have to fly someone in from Australia or someone like that. If you've got a certain blood type, you're kind of on a global register, and could
B negative. So one of my ex partners was B negative, and yeah, that was. She used to donate blood very regular because it was basically
really
they were always running short. So really, really interesting. Now, if we were going to introduce something through the human race, something that is a dominant strain and increases sexual desire, doesn't interact well with other blood types, that'd be the way to introduce a genome or new DNA into humanity, wouldn't it?
I'm thinking about when humanity evolved from Homo erectus and Neanderthal to Homo sapien. I think that happened over quite a long period of time, didn't it? But I mean, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals did coexist for a period of time. I don't know if that was hundreds of years, thousands of years, but the Neanderthals are completely gone now. They were wiped out. Even the most remote tribes in the most far-flung jungle areas, tribes that didn't interact with the outside world until sometime in the 20th century, the Homo sapiens, the Neanderthals just don't
exist. That's the speaker. So when we talk about the missing link there, we can see evolution happening, but every now and then there's a sudden jump, a quantum leap in our evolution, and I wonder if that's what we're seeing here is with Rh negative is basically humanity gearing up for another quantum leap with a greater mental capacity, better health, all the rest of it. And yet that's the speculation, is are aliens putting these things into humanity to give us this quantum leap?
Or is it just... I mean, it doesn't seem... It's not a quantum leap on the scale of from Neanderthal to Homo sapien, but it sounds like, in most cases, an improvement.
Isn't it, though?
You'd think most things are positive, apart from the bit about getting pregnant and dying if you get pregnant by someone positive, to maintain the purity of the species.
Well, you would say that the advancement to Homo sapiens from Neanderthal was very positive from the point of view of the Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
Not so much from the Neanderthal.
No, but also, could that be another social division? I mean, we're always finding things to fight over, things to divide us. The ruling class, I'm bound to say, exploit this, and we are many, they are few, but they exploit our differences, and so they exploit us along the fault lines of nationalism, racism, gender, sexuality, whatever. Could this be another one?
Anything that can be divisive about could potentially be. Well, I, for one, welcome our RH negative overlords.
Is there any indication that they're royalty or are they...
I don't know specifically the blood types of royalty.
When you talk about blue-blooded aristocrats and whatever, are they Rh negative? Are they already... Because if so, then they are very much part of the old order that has to go.
I'm looking at trying to find blood types. Interestingly, Rh negative blood used to be called royal blood because of its its minority. No, I can't see blood types. I can see A, B, O, and things like that, but I can't see positive or negative. it's likely that Queen Elizabeth was RH positive and Prince Philip as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I like the theory though. I like the
yeah.
I like the thinking there.
Well, I just wanted to check that these might be part of a new order and they're not just part of the old aristocracy.
Well, that's kind of it. These, if it is increasing mental capacity and people who are outstanding in society, I'll say, the famous people, world leaders and such like. Yeah, it could be. These are the people taking over.
Yeah, very slowly.
Very
slowly. And starting in the Basque country, in the Pyrenees.
Well, we don't know that's where they start. We know that it came from Europe, which obviously the Basque region is in Europe, but we don't know specifically where. But yeah. So
I'd be interested to know more about it. Are they more resistant to cancer, diabetes, all those kinds?
It would be interesting to see studies like that, but I think we're some way off doing the proper statistical analysis. It's a bit recent to find out,
and probably a lot of the experiments they would want to do would be very unethical.
There's that as well. So what we can do for now is speculate, which is what we're good at on this show.
Aren't we? That's what we do. We do that a lot.
We do. But what do you think, listeners? Is RH negative blood from extraterrestrials or otherworldly sources? Or is it much more mundane than that and just...
are we evolving naturally? That's the...
Yeah. Next step in our evolution. Perhaps. Do let us know what you think via the usual means. You can email us aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching Aliens Explored, or on our YouTube channel you can just pop a comment on any of our YouTube videos and let us know what you think. And of course, our Patreon subscribers get exclusive access to our Discord server as well. So you can pop your thoughts in there. Anyway, next time, we'll be taking a trip to the moon, Neil.
Lovely.
And we're going to be looking at some alien structures on there. So I look forward to that one. So, until then, keep watching out for any alien invaders, whether it's through our genome or, of course, from the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.